Welcome back to 100 years of Nazdar history. I ended the last video with the 25th anniversary advertisement in 1948. In 1949, business in the United States was growing, as well as many of the Western European countries that were recovering from World War II and rebuilding. This December 1948 ad shows the promise Nazdar had for business in 1949, with the invitation to write for catalog number 25. This is the time when silkscreen printing becomes a growing commercial printing industry. The Screen Process Printing Association, or SPPA, was established in Chicago in 1948. England already had an established organization in 1934. In January of 1953, Screen Process magazine was introduced. For the first couple of years of publication, the cover of Screen Process magazine was actually silkscreen printed. Nazdar runs this ad to congratulate Screen Process and moves their advertising from Sign of the Times magazine to Screen Process. Both magazines are published by ST Publications. It is during this same period that Nazdar ads start to appear for Cincinnati Supply, Joseph Podger Company, and McLogan's Supply. Cincinnati Supply and the Podger Company were later acquired by Nazdar some 30 years later. McLogan's Supply, a Nazdar distributor in the Los Angeles area, long before Nazdar opened up a branch there, and that is where I bought my first Nazdar inks in 1975. In February of 1953, we see the first ad showing the classic Jet Age Nazdar ink label, this label right here. This is the Nazdar label many of us remember as the original Nazdar label. In June of 1953, Nazdar President Howard Parmalee dies suddenly. It was announced that Robert Doran, who was vice president and had been with the company since 1924, was appointed president of Nazdar, and John Pottage became vice president. Nazdar introduced two new inks in 1953, the 2500 and the 4600 series. Showing confidence in their products, they ran this ad showing a printer laughing at Nazdar's competition. In January of 1954, Nazdar officially introduces the 5500 series inks for posters with this silkscreen ad that was inserted into Screen Process magazine. Now, 67 years later, we have sold $230,000 of this ink last year, which is a 40% increase over the previous year. Pretty impressive product longevity. The only thing I could find with similar longevity is Tony Bennett, who had a #1 hit in 1954 with the song Rags to Riches, and peanut M&Ms, which were introduced in 1954. I think Tony just retired, but peanut M&Ms still rule for most of us. In January of 1955, Nazdar has these professional photographs taken in the production area, the R&D lab, and at a trade show booth. These are the images we have chosen for the backdrop of our history diorama. Originally in black and white, we have colorized them for added excitement. In this 1956 full spread ad in Screen Process magazine, Nazdar now lists 9 ink lines, including the new 6000 series textile ink. This ad lists more than 60 distributors in the United States and Canada. Note the new logo and name usage in this ad. This is followed up with a 9-page advertisement where each of the inks are listed in one full page. At the end of 1958, Nazdar forms Nazdar Canada Limited to manufacture Nazdar inks and distribute supplies at 468 Gilbert Avenue in Toronto. J.V. O'Brien from Graphic Screen Supplies is named the manager of this facility. Also in 1950s, some new silkscreen printed products are floor graphics that were introduced by Frank Meyer and Associates in Milwaukee, and the first automobile bumper stickers, which are credited to Forrest Gill, founder of Gill Studios, right down the road from us here in Lenexa, Kansas. By the end of the 50s, Nazdar advertising had moved to testimonials and a focus on quality with intensified pigmentation and even some humor. At the end of the 50s, Nazdar introduced several new inks, some which we're still familiar with today. This ad here for fluorescent 5500 inks is unique as an ad with no copy on it. Also, they introduced the ER series and the 59,000 series, the JD ink series, the VF series, and finally, the GV series of inks. By the time we get to 1960, Nazdar had 12 different ink lines. Of those, the 5500, the GV, the VF, and the 59,000 inks are still sold today. Last year, we saw $1.8 million in sales of these 4 inks. Pretty impressive for product longevity. Join me next month when we move into the 1960s and the introduction of plastics in signage and more new inks. Until then, Nazdrovia.